We are now on episode 9, and today we're going to be taking a look at how we can add cuts as well as scars and blood to our fighters. So we have our test dummy on the screen, and I have a couple of the tattoos laid out on him that are commonly used to achieve these effects. We're going to start with the most simple, and that is Shapes 124, which is the red half moon, and we're going to take a quick look at scars. It's not uncommon that people we're trying to create in a fighting game have accrued damage on their face over time. So this tattoo is a quick and easy way to replicate that. All we have to do is stretch it out and then bring it down in size by pressing down on the D-pad. Then we can orient them in whichever way we need. And I've just quickly placed 3 on this guy's face, so we have 1 on the eyebrow, 1 on the cheek, and 1 on his lip. Here's Nico Price with said lip scar. Just 1 tattoo, simple, easy, and effective. Now I use the red half moon a lot, but just keep in mind it's not going to work in every case, and it's just mostly going to depend on your fighter's skin tone. Back to Fedor yet again. I have 1 half moon on each of his eyebrow lines, and we have the opacity lowered to a point where they're not overly noticeable. Because the scale is so small, again, we only really need 1 tattoo to accurately depict these scars. Here we have a slightly bigger scar on Alistair Overeem's cheek, so we needed slightly more detail. And this scar is composed of a black half moon layered with a fading black half moon. And that was just, in this case, the combo that allowed me to get the end result that I was looking for. Now let's take a look at how we can add slightly more detail to our scars or cuts, especially when we're making them larger. So same idea and starting point, I grab Shapes 124 and stretch it out to the size, shape, and opacity that I want. But now we're going to go back in and make it look a lot cooler. So we're going to grab the corresponding color from the bottom of the Shapes section, which is in this case Shapes 187. And similar to how we've deployed it in the previous tutorials, we're simply going to duplicate it and run it along the edges of our cut or scar. And we very quickly have much more realistic looking damage on this fighter's chest. And then this dragon tattoo, which is fantasy number 4, I've seen people use to apply damage. So again, you can just minimize its size and then stretch it out and then minimize its size again until you have a shape that you want. And here I'm just duplicating it a couple of times, and it kind of gives the effect of claw marks. And this was the created fighter that came to mind specifically when I was putting this video together. So this is a Bruce Lee calf done by Pemby from Pemby's 4K Gaming World. And I remember this one because when it was posted, I remember my eyes were immediately drawn to the damage that he put on Bruce Lee's chest. I thought it looked really cool and interesting, so he started with Celtic Tribal 1, stretched it out, and then did the same thing that we showed earlier with Fantasy Tattoo number 4, but his were a little bit thicker. And then he went back in like we did with Shapes 187 to blur it slightly. Very cool looking effects in my opinion. And then obviously if you want, you can use these same techniques on any other part of the body. So I'm just grabbing Fantasy Tattoo number 4 again, and I'll just do the same scratch slash claw mark look on his face. And these more exaggerated effects are obviously a bit more especially useful if you're making certain characters from movies or TV or whatnot. And before we go, we'll take a look at one more fighter. This was a Mike Perry calf that I made, and this was made to look like Mike Perry after his fight with Vicente Luque, where he received a badly broken nose as well as tons of other damage. So we're just cycling through the tattoos and trying to show you how I attempted to duplicate the blood, the bruises, the cuts. So there was a lot of solid red shapes for the blood, a lot of the blurry red shapes. Right here we elongated some red shapes for some dripping blood off of his eye. This was just another one where I was experimenting and having fun. And here we have a couple of Shapes 187. I was trying to duplicate some abrasions here. As I keep saying, there's so many different ways you can use those tattoos specifically to get different looks that you're going for. This was really the only example fighter I had to make look very bloody. So I don't necessarily know that these are the best techniques, but rather they'll hopefully just give you guys some ideas if you want to try it out for yourself. I would just recommend messing around with any of the red shapes in the shape section as well as any of the other tattoos in the entire tattoo section that have red in them, and then just manipulating their size similar to how we saw Pembe do with his Bruce Lee. So that's going to be it for today's episode. We only have a couple more to go, and in the next episode, I believe we're going to be looking at techniques to add body definition.